So what is up amigos, hope you're doing awesome. Welcome back to my channel. Now usually I do my videos in English, but today before I get into this topic, I want to address something in Hindi. मुझे हिंदी में कुछ एड्रेस करना है beforehand. ये पूरा वीडियो देखने के बाद ना पक्का कुछ 100-200 महाबेवकूफ चमन आएंगे, पनीर, समोसा, शाही पनीर, मटर पनीर, पेड पीआर की बकवास करेंगे जिन्हें पीआर का फुल फॉर्म तक नहीं पता होगा. और ये ऑडियंस ही नहीं, देखना ये वो 4 पिद्दी रिव्यूअर्स आते हैं ना, उनका एक कल्ट है, वो भी यही करेंगे. देखो 500,000 में बिक गया ये तो. और अब देखना ये कल्ट करेगा क्या. धुरंधर के एक टीजर और एक ट्रेलर, मतलब 2 ही प्रमोशनल मटेरियल आए हैं, उस पर 20 वीडियो और 200 रील काटेंगे व्यूज के लिए और कहेंगे वाह पीक डिटेलिंग, मास्टरमाइंड, मस्ट फाइंड, मस्ट ग्राइंड, जो मास्टर मिला सब मास्टर लगा देंगे. ये 1 मिलीसेकंड का स्क्रीनशॉट देखो, ये आधे मिलीसेकंड का स्क्रीनशॉट देखो, मैंने पॉज करके ब्रेक डाउन किया है. हाँ देखो भाई तुम मिस कर गए, बट मैं बताऊंगा कहानी कैसे होगी, क्योंकि तुम्हारे भाई नाजुक शौकत पाशा ने खोज के चैट जी फिटे मुंह से निकाला है, रिसर्च करवाया है. और ये वही रिव्यूअर्स हैं जिन्होंने कबीर सिंह और एनिमल जब आई थी ना, तो उसके डायरेक्टर को पापा बना लिया था. फिर केजीएफ की 2 फिल्में आई तो उसके एक्टर को पापा बना लिया. फिर पुष्पा की 2 फिल्में आई तो उसके एक्टर को पापा बना लिया. फिर कांतारा की 2 फिल्में आई तो उसके एक्टर को भी पापा बना लिया. पैर तक पड़ गए थे, याद है ना. और 4 साल बॉलीवुड को गालियां देने के बाद अब 2 धुरंधर की फिल्में आई हैं तो उसके डायरेक्टर को सर पे पापा बना के घूम रहे हैं. इनको वही शायद डैडी इश्यूज या डैडी सिंड्रोम है बेचारों को. वैसे आप नीचे कमेंट कर सकते हो #डैडी सिंड्रोम और उनका नाम लिख देना अगर आपको लगता है कि ये उनको है. और अगर मेरे हेटर हो तो मेरा ही नाम लिखोगे, मैं जानता हूँ, बट इट्स ओके. और अगर किसी ने काउंटर वीडियो बनाया ना तो समझ लेना खुद ही किसको कि ये सिंड्रोम है, क्योंकि उड़ता तीर उन्होंने लिया हुआ. फिर क्योंकि मैं तो किसी का नाम नहीं ले रहा यहाँ पे. एंड आपको अगर वही गाली गलौज, वही उछल कूद, वही नौटंकी तमाशा पसंद है तो शायद ये वीडियो पसंद ना आए, क्योंकि इसमें थोड़ा लॉजिक, थोड़ा रैशनल और थोड़ी बुद्धि लगेगी, थोड़ा सा IQ लगाना पड़ेगा. आपको ऐसे वीडियो नहीं पसंद तो आप वहीं जा सकते हैं. और अगर आपको थोड़ा आराम से बैठ के शांति से समझने का IQ है तो देखिए पूरा और सब्सक्राइब भी कर लेना हो सके तो. बट अगर पूरा देखोगे, चाहे हेट से या शांति से, ओपिनियन भी जरूर कमेंट कर देना, जैसे भी हो. जैसे मैंने कहा, गाली देना है तो भी ठीक, अगर बुद्धि से संवाद करना है फिर भी ठीक. नाउ लेट्स गेट बैक टू आवर मेन टॉपिक. Now Dhurandhar 2 trailer dropped a couple of days ago and I'm going to be honest, it is not the kind of trailer that gives you any plot. It is the kind that sells mood. It feels like a musical edit on those Twitter X posts stitched from action montages, swagger shots, slow motion attitude and pure aura farming. And look, that is not automatically a bad thing. For a sequel, especially one riding on the recall of a massive first part, this is smart marketing cut because it reminds you of the scale and it triggers excitement. But at the same time, I'm not going to pretend that this is some deep trailer that deserves 100 breakdown videos, because there is not much to break down yet. Now, it is not promising you a story turn, it is promising you an experience. Fans are already calling it a masterpiece, but a montage cannot become a masterpiece on day one. Now, that judgment is only earned when the film actually shows what it is trying to say and how strong the writing is. And I'll be the first one to do it when I watch this. Having said that, yes, I will also be watching it first day, not because I'm a part of a fan war, but because sequels have a built-in advantage that is brutally simple: closure. If part 1 is even decently good, a huge chunk of the audience will show up for part 2 just to know how it ends. Even when a show has a season that is not as great, like Family Man season 3, people still wait for the next season because the hook is already planted and the brain wants the payoff. So Dhurandhar 2 getting hype right now is normal. It is not a conspiracy. It is the natural sequel effect. And yes, before someone jumps into the comments, I'm also fully aware that Dhurandhar has already outperformed Toxic in advance premiere bookings. That momentum is clearly there. But again, advance hype and opening curiosity are one part of the story. The real judgment always happens when the full film lands. Now, the reason I'm starting with this trailer today is because the moment it dropped, the same noise started again. Toxic postponed because Yash got scared. I've made a short video on this, but I wanted to speak more in detail. And I also want to clarify something before we go deeper. I'm not here to put down Dhurandhar, and I'm not here to do fan wars for engagement. I've already made a separate video on the Toxic teaser, saying I was not impressed with Toxic's promo material either. So I'm not doing this my side good, your side bad nonsense. Fan wars are manufactured hype tactics. Every industry does it, and I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in logic, and I'm interested in what makes business sense for a film ecosystem where distributors and exhibitors take financial risks. So let us talk facts and dissect what actually happened. Now, March 19, 2026 was being projected for months as one of the biggest holiday windows of the year, with festivals stacked around that week, and the trade conversation had turned it into the clash of the decade. Toxic was locked for March 19, 2026 for a long time. Then Dhurandhar 2 also jumped jumped onto March 19, 2026 with the trailer now out and the date still holding. Toxic, meanwhile, has officially moved from March 19th to June 4th, and the stated reason from the team is the current uncertainty in the Middle East and across the world, and the way it impacts Gulf markets majorly after consultations with their regional distribution partner. And the internet reaction, predictably, was not, okay, distribution risk. It was, Deha Yash got scared, like this is some school rivalry. Now here's where I push back, because calling this fear is the laziest reading of the situation. If you want to understand why this move happened, you have to understand the advantage of a mega sequel in general. Once a film becomes a cultural event, part 2 is not being sold like a new film. It is being sold like an ending. That is the most powerful kind of pull, because audiences are not just curious, they want closure. That does not make part 2 automatically better. It just makes the opening weekend demand naturally higher. Now let us talk about the ugly, boring, real part, economics and logistics. Now when two massive films release on the same day, both films face real constraints because screens are limited, prime show timings are limited, and premium formats are also limited. Multiplexes have to split the shows, and they will split based on demand and practicality. And may I remind you, both films are over 3.5 hours long, so run times matter. So if both films are this long, show counts per screen go down, cleaning time between shows goes up, and suddenly the clash is not just about hype, it becomes a physical scheduling squeeze. That is where the discussion should be, because this is the part that affects distributors and exhibitors the most. Then comes the audience reality that Twitter never wants to accept. A middle-class family that saves money for one proper theater outing cannot watch two big-ticket event films in the same weekend, maybe not even in the same month. They will choose one. The other film automatically loses footfall in the first burst of demand. And after the weekend comes Monday, where even slightly moderate word of mouth can cause a sharper fall, and distributors start getting nervous because weekday stability is what protects a film's run. If a film's opening weekend is compromised by timing and capacity, you do not just lose collections, you lose momentum. Now bring Toxic into the picture properly, because Toxic is not being positioned like a normal domestic only release. No matter what people say, it is shot simultaneously in Kannada and English, and it is clearly aimed at a global audience. That changes the risk profile. Overseas distribution is sensitive to regional stability and exhibitor confidence, and Gulf markets are a meaningful circuit for Indian event films. If the GCC region is affected by geopolitical uncertainty and theaters are disrupted, the impact is not theoretical. Even a conservative estimate says the Gulf market could have brought in something close to 50 crores for Toxic. And yes, before anyone dismisses that as small money compared to a 1,000 crore film, no, 50 crore is still a big amount of money. No serious producer will ignore that kind of revenue just to satisfy an ego narrative on the internet. And this is where one more point matters. Toxic is a high stakes film, not just because of scale, but because of how much is riding on week one. Big films operate on pre-release business, distribution advances, overseas commitments, and settlements that often depend on performance. If the opening weekend gets squeezed, the pressure is not only on ego, pressure is on the entire financial structure holding steady. That is why this decision is not emotional, it is mathematical. Now zoom out, look at Yash's 2026 career chessboard, because this is the part people forget while shouting scared. Yash also has Ramayana coming, and that is a massive national spotlight project. If Toxic releases on June 4th with a cleaner window and it lands strongly, Yash walks into the next phase of 2026 with trade confidence and audience goodwill fully intact. If Toxic had stayed put and the opening got constrained by screens, show counts, and overseas uncertainty, even a decent performance could have been framed as underperformance. And narratives matter in this business. So yes, this is not just a release date decision, it is a career decision too. So where does that leave us today? Dhurandhar 2 trailer has done its job, of course. It has ignited hype and reminded people of scale, but it has not given enough story to declare it a masterpiece yet. And I'm saying that while still being excited to watch it first day. And Toxic postponing to June 4th is not a humiliation. It is a calculated move in a market where distribution, screens, runtimes, overseas stability, and audience spending capacity decides the real outcome. I keep repeating it for you. Calling it running away is easy when you have nothing at stake. When you actually have hundreds of crores, distributor confidence, international partners, and your own long-term career narrative at stake, the smartest thing is to choose the runway where the film gets a fair chance. Thank you for watching till now. Do comment what your thoughts are. Hate or appreciation, or of course that hashtag along with the name of the person. Anything. You have a great day. Thank you.